So let's talk about a war that just never really ended. We're heading to an island in Neosia where two absolute superpowers, Nia and Damogo, are locked in this perpetual stalemate. They're stuck sharing one huge landmass, but their ideas about how the world should work? Yeah, they're literally worlds apart.
But here's the twist. This isn't just a story about endless conflict. It's about the incredibly strange and kind of brilliant system that grew up in a shadow. So as we go through this, I want you to keep one big question in the back of your mind. What if peace wasn't something you made, but something you purchased?
Okay, let's dive right in. To really get a handle on this whole situation, you first have to understand the geography. We're talking about a single, massive island, basically split right down the middle.
And we're not just talking about some line on a map here. This is a chasm. It's a split that runs through the very rock of the island, through their politics, their beliefs, and through centuries of warfare that never actually reached a conclusion. The quote-unquote peace they have now is unbelievably fragile. It's a standoff held in place not by trust, but by the sheer crippling cost of what an all-out war would mean for both of them.
And that gets us right to the core of who these two nations are. They are complete polar opposites, like two different answers to the exact same question of how a nation should wield power. You've got the cold, hard calculation of geometry versus the raw industrial might of the foundry.
And you can see these opposing philosophies laid out perfectly right here. Nia is the scalpel. They're all about precision, restraint, thinking 10 moves ahead about the consequences. Their whole strategy is built around controlling movement. Damogo, on the other hand, they're the hammer. They believe in mass production, industrial might, and the simple, brutal inevitability of just overwhelming you. Their goal isn't finesse, it's total control of territory itself. Okay, so let's zoom in on Nia for a second. This is a maritime civilization, right to its core. Their power isn't measured in how much land they own, but in their absolute mastery of the sea. Their entire military doctrine is designed to avoid big, messy land battles. I mean, why get your hands dirty in the mud when you can use your superior navy to just cut off supply lines and slowly bleed your enemy dry? For Nia, war is a science. It's, as they say, geometry, not rage. And then on the complete other side of the spectrum, you've got Damogo. Their whole society is literally forged in the fire of foundries and armories. Here, military service isn't just a career path, it's a fundamental expectation, often a family legacy passed down for generations. Their doctrine is something called the black powder phalanx. Just imagine these massive blocks of infantry, laying down constant rotating waves of gunfire. It's not about individual skill or heroics, it's about obedience, timing, and becoming a single, unstoppable human machine. And this is where it gets really cool. You can see how their entire way of thinking translates directly into their military hardware. Just look at the names of their ships. Nia has vessels like the Precise Vector and the Geometric Sovereign. They're practically floating laboratories. Damogo, meanwhile, puts ships like Damogo's Fist and the Sovereign of Foundries out to sea. These things are smoke-belching, iron-reinforced leviathans designed for one single purpose: absolute, overwhelming force. So what happens when two unstoppable forces like these are locked in an eternal stalemate? What does that leave behind? Well, it's not peace. It's a scar, a permanent physical reminder of their conflict. This is no man's land. It is a literal wound sliced across the island, a coast-to-coast belt of pure devastation. Sure, it acts as a buffer zone, but it's also been called the physical memory of war. This landscape of trenches, craters, and ruined forts makes sure that neither side can ever forget the true cost of their endless fight. But, wherever there's chaos, there's opportunity. And stepping right into this brutal, war-torn landscape are some very unexpected players. We're talking about sophisticated, professional, mercenary guilds. First up, we've got the Gallowscrow Compact, and their motto? Man, it tells you everything you need to know about how they operate. These are the ultimate pragmatists, focused on the one thing that brings any kind of order to their chaotic world: the contract. The Gallowscrow Compact are basically the anchors of no man's land. They are defined by this almost legalistic approach to warfare. To them, a contract is a sacred obligation, and they will punish anyone who breaks it, internally with, let's just say, extreme severity. This rigid discipline has earned them a rock-solid reputation as the most reliable force for hire, specializing in things like defending forts and protecting very tense negotiations. And then you've got a totally different beast altogether, the Pale March. Their motto is way more enigmatic, and it hints at a completely different philosophy on life and war.
See, the Pale March isn't just a company. They are a nomadic society that travels with their families in tow. You'll know them by their faces, which are whitened with ash, and by a very stark tradition. They discard their birth names after their first kill. They don't fight to hold territory, they fight to survive, and they've mastered the art of attrition. For the Pale March, war isn't a job, it's just life.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about here, the Gallowscrow Compact can field anywhere from 800 to 1,200 highly disciplined professionals. The Pale March is a bit smaller, with 400 to 700 fighters, but they are incredibly resilient because of that nomadic lifestyle. So yeah, these are not just small bands of thugs. These are significant military and political forces in their own right.
All right, so let's zoom out. What actually happens when the most stable, reliable forces in an entire region are armies for hire? Well, you get a completely new kind of world order, an architecture of peace built not on ideals or treaties, but on invoices. And this is the absolute kicker. The entire archipelago now runs in this era where peace isn't kept by treaties, but by this incredibly complex web of mercenary contracts. They provide what some analysts call deniable stability. Nations can literally outsource their security, even their dirty work, which creates this very strange but functional kind of equilibrium. A recent socioeconomic analysis of the region just nails it. It says that the old rules of power, rules based on land and bloodlines, are fading away. In this new reality, the true power, that belongs to whoever holds the contract. And that brings us right back to that question we started with. But now it has a whole new weight to it, doesn't it? The perpetual war between Nia and Damogo didn't just carve a scar into the land, it created an entirely new market, a market for peace itself. And it leaves us with one last big thought. When power is just another commodity, a line item on a contract, who truly rules the world?